Hey, it's that time we woke up in a podcast and had to explain manga. Our heated adventures over analyzing manga we find interesting, otherwise known as the Over Manga Cast. This is Matt, but this week we're following Chihiro, our protagonist in this world of katanas and trenchcoats, as he needs to avenge his father's murder. We're reading Kagurabachi by Takeru Hokazono. We're reading chapters 1 through 18, which gets us a whole lot of decapitations and basically to the end of the Versus Sojo arc. Enjoy the episode.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Over Manga Cast. My name is Sam, and as always here at the top of the show we talk about our familiarity with the manga that we read this week. I had not heard of this one before, but it's not too surprising from my understanding. It's a very recent series. How about you, Matt?
Kagurabachi, I believe, was recommended to us, so I checked out the first chapter when that had happened, and it seemed fun. So I put it on the list for whenever we'd get around to it, and then it got an anime announced. So we're whores for attention.
We have now officially gotten around to it. How about you, Jacob?
Nope, not heard of it.
All right, and we are, alas, shy AJ this week. But with that, we will dive on in. We open up with glorious Nippon steel.
Folded 1,000 times because Japanese steel was actually garbage.
I love anytime we get a katana swordsmith, because they always are the mythology of katanas, and it's just like, yes, the perfect weapon crafted for a more elegant age. And I'm like, yes, technique does typically come up when you have to make up for lack of quality in materials.
So just because I'm enough of a nerd that I have like looked into this sort of thing, the folding process doesn't actually do anything if the steel is good, and modern swords, like swords made today, wouldn't need it. It doesn't hurt them, though. Also, just because there's the cult of the katana, that it's the perfect weapon and everything. They're good swords. Like, even the ones that were made with the rat steel, the folding actually did cover most of the problems with the material. But it is always fun to see. This is a Japanese story about Japanese swords, so like
They go hard.
the first page is this like katana cultist mythologizing nonsense, like cranked up to 11.
Yeah, and it's not like there's any Western stories about how incredibly good swords are compared to all other weapons. Oh, wait, no, there's like an entire mythos
No.
about some kind of lady in the lake giving out swords.
Strange women laying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government.
You know, Sam, you keep saying that, but I'm just saying.
The alternatives have been shaky, true enough. But we open up after the appropriate amount of fawning over the forging process. We get to the actual story, where we have a father and son duo going to work in the forge. The son, Chihiro, is a very serious looking lad.
Mhm.
He looks perpetually done with all things.
His resting bitch face is
Very powerful.
Very justified too, because you can see his home life dynamic is he is being raised by a single father. We don't know what happened to the mom. I'm assuming dead until we hear plot twist nonsense that says otherwise, but didn't happen in our reading. So the mom is not in the picture. And basically that means that he is his dad's wife now, because he is the homemaker, the cook,
The adult in the room.
everything that isn't about forging katanas is his job.
Yes. Dad's he's a wacky guy. He listens to the goldfish talking to him. Chihiro, our main character, he can tell that something must be up today, because Dad is actually serious. Like, even more serious than he normally is during forging.
Normally he's serious enough during forging, but like today seems
especially so for some reason. And as they take a break for some lunch, they have an unexpected visitor. My man, your boy Shiba. I love this guy. He shows up, a friend of the family. He's interesting because he's clearly got some terrible backstory, hideous things done, talking about the war and all that.
Ah, yes, the Setai War that happened 15 years ago, which, to the best of my understanding, is one of like the only things that separates the setting from modern day Japan.
Yes,
Well, one of two things, but we'll get into that.
we'll get into the primary other thing. Yeah, but
They certainly hide that primary other thing until you're into chapter 2.
uh-huh.
Impressive.
Oh, actually, I guess it's three things then, because there's one thing I noticed.
Shiba is visiting, chatting about, the war. Hey, kid, you've really grown, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be just like your dad one day.
Your dad, the war hero, who invented the nukes that allowed us to win. And by nukes, I mean katana.
I mean swords. Really good swords.
Your dad's basically Oppenheimer. If Oppenheimer was really jazzed about how good of a job he did making those nukes.
Yeah, we get a little statement of the philosophy of the character as after she believes, before they go back to the forge, they go into the dojo, and dad waxes poetic about his belief that it's good that we have like this skill and pride in our craft, but katana are made for killing people, so we need to make sure that the katana that we made are given into the hands of righteous people, because we provided the weapon. The sin comes back, we're given part of that karma.
And I am always a sucker for, like, weapons are a tool to kill people. Never forget that speeches.
Mm-hmm.
They're always good. They're basically candy to me. Like,
oh yeah, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, and the thing I like about this is like we get a lot of like Chihiro is the adult in the room because dad's so quirky. But one thing that I liked that was like a moment that really sold the maturity of the character to me, at least in this first chapter, at least the dad's like, can you carry the burden of when you make a katana for yourself and give it to somebody, they're going to kill people with it. Can you accept that responsibility? And, unlike, a sort of generic plucky shonen protag, his response is very honest in that I don't know if I can handle it, but I'm committed to trying.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and dad's response to that is great. I'm going to start teaching you, because like he takes that answer as like, cool. I'd rather have someone try than someone who just assumes they can handle this burden. Like, because dad's entire thing is he is so happy-go-lucky and all of this because the fact he ended a war with some weapons he made is actually weighing on him very heavily.
Uh-huh.
And like, yeah, no, it's very subtle and has like a unique spin on things. And I just really think the manga could keep going forward with that angle.
Yeah, it really could.
Subtlety and maturity. And unique things, right?
Yeah.
Oh god, we're only like 10 minutes in.
All right, smash cut. 3 years later, Yakuza killing some people. Folks that had been, resisting the Yakuza's takeover of their town. How you punks, how dare you? We'll torture and kill all of you. Also, we've got a wizard.
Yeah, magic exists.
Yeah, what? I don't believe in none of them sorcerers or nothing. Ah, yes, you should believe in magic. Because you're in one. Wait, that's not how that quote works.
Sorcerer appears, grows a very spiky bonsai tree.
Around the face of the...
I will say, I really like how sorcery is depicted in this. It's, if either of you have watched or read Dorohedoro, it's very like magic is intrinsically weird and like scary.
Yeah, I liked the sorcery a lot, and like everyone's got their own unique sorcery.
Yeah, so that's the things unique about the setting. The other one, it was sort of dawning on me at about this point where I'm like, so do guns not exist?
Yeah, it's like this is a very modern.
This is overtly modern day Japan. If the clothes are anything to go by, Everyone's using swords.
Do they just not have guns? I guess when you got swords and magic, why guns?
What do you need guns for?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a conceit you have.
We have an aesthetic and we are sticking to it.
It's
I can-
almost as if people having guns would kind of make the swords a moot point.
No, we have an aesthetic and we are sticking to it.
Well, you don't understand, Jacob. That we don't get established in this first chapter that the swords are magic. That actually is hidden until chapter 2, which I thought was a interesting choice. He does some stuff with the sword that you think, oh, that must be magic. But I've just been conditioned by samurai fiction to be like, yeah, sure, swords can cut the air. Why not? That makes sense. Like,
Yeah, clearly it's just because Chihiro is so cool.
Yeah, as the breathing techniques in Demon Slayer, is that magic or not? Are they actually summoning water dragons and shit?
they're apparently not mad. We're complaining about one thing at a time.
No.
Let's not talk about it.
We're
Fair.
not getting into that. We did a whole episode on that a little while ago. Either way,
I want to stay right here. I really enjoyed this first chapter because it's basically, it cuts in place to 3 years later and he's on like this mission to go kill these Yakuza.
yeah, he's got this gnarly ass scar. Chihiro, that is. We don't see Dad. I wonder what happened. I wonder why Chihiro has this
Gosh,
scar.
I couldn't
and this...
imagine where Dad would be when he's suddenly wearing all black and brooding even harder than he normally did.
To be fair, the manga also doesn't pretend like that's a secret. Mr.
That's
Shiba
true,
comes in and says, hey, you lost your dad, essentially. Like,
Shiba's like, hey, that gnarly scar, we've got magic. We could probably get rid of that. And he's like, I keep it so that every day I start with fresh hatred when I gaze upon it in the mirror.
Yeah, I was
like, okay, buddy.
I'm going to say this now, Jacob. Maybe we don't mock some of the only subtle storytelling this manga does.
The boys roll up on the Yakuza and just completely freaking clown on them. It's very well drawn action. As
very violent too. Like,
oh, extremely, yeah.
A lot of people getting bisected like completely by katana, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is like edgy Shonen Jump.
Yeah,
this is the same Shonen Jump Chainsaw Man lives in. Man, if we were like an actual podcast, I would have looked up what magazine in Japan this is published in, or if it's like online only. But I didn't. It's just on the Shonen Jump app for me. So
same.
If it's on the Shonen Jump app, and that's all we need to know. Chihiro summons some magic goldfish from his sword and attacks the Yakuza with it and kills like 15 dudes with one sword slash.
That's what he does.
The goldfish were like an entire thing because Dad had 3 of them. It was like
they brought good luck.
Yeah, the black one wards off evil, the red one attracts fortune, and the mottled one, well, we don't know what it does, but it's really cool.
It does a lot of cool things, and I'm like, you're keeping that one secret because we find out the goldfish are what the powers of this katana are based off of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Sort of. But
we'll get there.
Either way, Chihiro kills all the Yakuza except one where he's like, I know about the sorcerers backing you. You're going to tell me all about the Hishaku. I have to cut them all down.
I will tell you about the Hishaku. They're, oh god, sorcery inside my lungs.
I'm turning into a tree.
You can't even mention their name.
I liked that weird magic kill switch to.
No, it's very cool.
Yeah.
This entire first thing is very cool.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of unique, subtle storytelling. I really enjoyed this first arc.
So they rescue the
last living protester.
We also get the lore drop kind of at the end of this about the Hishaku are the people who, because we get told the flashback in like cut up parts, and then at the end we kind of get like fully summarized. These group of criminals came to their family home, killed the dad, and in the basement there were 6 katanas locked away that were like the weapons of mass destruction that ended the Setai War. And they were stolen. So they killed dad, stole his katanas, and now Chihiro is using the last sword his dad forged to go hunt them down.
Yes, the last of the enchanted blades.
These are the 6 nukes that he made. He apparently got them back after the end of the war, and he had made a 7th since then that nobody knew about, and that's the Etten that Chihiro is currently using.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also this flashback where we get the line I really like from his dad about like what is the process for making one of these weapons, and he's just like, you need to focus really hard and think about what kind of sword the world needs.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that's a very personal thing that'll be up to you, but I'll help guide you as best I can. And then cut to Dad's bloody dead face, which I thought that was strong.
No, like
panel.
they do a lot of cool things in this. Like the beginning of chapter 1 too is like it talks about the forging of the katana, and then the bottom of the page is just roaring fire, and you're like, oh no, what's that? And then you flip and it's them working in the forge. But clearly what that's supposed to represent is that the chapter ends with the flashback of them like burning down his family home.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool paneling. Like,
yeah. And flashback over. Unfortunately, the one guy that they had captured died because of the kill switch. So they are now bereft of leads once again. Chihiro is brooding in a hotel in Tokyo.
Well, no, they go to Tokyo because they got Deus Ex Machina another lead.
Oh yes, someone has spotted one of the enchanted blades.
I thought this is really just they lucked out so severely. And they just keep doubling down on how unlikely this situation to have happened was. But like, it's still early in the plot, so I guess I can pass it off as like, yeah, if something lucky didn't happen, nothing.
Yeah, the plot needs to actually happen.
It's just the insanity of how short of a window they had. It's the fact that it keeps getting more and more unlikely as they reveal more details about what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like within a couple of hours, basically. They finished going on their killing spree.
Well,
it's a matter of it's like they get a lead that might have something to do with the thing they want, and it just gets more and more involved in the plot.
Like,
before they learn about it.
We really can't fully convey until we've gone through the plot piece by piece about like how unlikely this situation is. It's literally every chapter you read, it becomes more and more unlikely that they would have gotten this lead at all. But they get the lead because the Mr. Shiba is he's kind of like a mercenary is kind of his deal. He works as like a bodyguard because Tokyo has a rule that you're allowed a katana for self-defense. And he's got a connection with someone who deals in katana sales, who, man, sure loves saying self-defense as like, hey, do you want to go do murders? I mean, self-defend yourself while you go do murders. This shopkeeper is introduced very politely. She's got a very dark introduction for what kind of character they portray her as going forward, but like,
yeah, she's like a Genki goth.
She sells weapons to criminals.
Yeah, she sells weapons to criminals. She is an information and basically job posting board for these sorcerers and yakuza.
Yeah, and like her entire thing is like, I sell katanas to people who need to defend themselves, but like has such the biggest wink wink nudge nudge about self-defense.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. So he's got criminal connections. That kind of makes sense. But basically what happened was we get a flashback to 3 years earlier, only to establish that Mr. Shiba came into the shop and was just like, hey, we're looking for this gang that killed Kunishige Rokuhira. Could you keep an eye out for them? He's like, okay, I'll put a sign up on the board behind me. Cut back to 3 years later to be like, ah, yes, and I've had that sign ever since. But no one's ever said anything about it. Oh, looks like I've got a customer because I've been talking to the viewer directly. Because
talking right into the camera.
This manga loves using a random like plot, it uses a random narrative device that it's never used before and will never use again.
Yeah, like she's doing the office interview into the camera.
Well, because it's supposed to be like the person there is a customer for this store, but then at the end of this scene dissolves into nothingness. So she was just talking to the audience.
Yeah.
because it's very like stage play, actually, is what this is right now.
Mhm.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're here. And I'm like, that's cool. You're a manga. You could just draw this. Like, the reason stage plays do that is because sets are hard to construct and like
And hard to change.
you need some imagination. But I guess, you know what? Whatever. It was unique and I liked it. And it set the scene for this little girl to walk in. It's like, hey, I'm basically a kindergartner. I'm being attacked by a bad man who's got a big sword that's the best, most powerful sword that's ever existed. And that is enough information for her to call Mr. Sheep and go like, "Hey, I think I found one of your secret katana. We'll be right there."
So
This
you
man,
you just listened to the exaggerated tale of a 5-year-old and thought that it was one of our MacGuffins?
man, good thing we took a train from like several cities over to get to Tokyo.
For this.
And Chihiro doesn't believe this story for a second because he's just like, "This is a kindergartner who told you there was a very big, powerful sword."
Can you blame him for being skeptical?
Ugh. But the little girl is hungry, so he offers to take her out for food. Offers is very strong because she's got like a gimmick where she's very like humble, but then will just interject what she wants and then respond to that interjection as if it was someone else who said it.
Mhm. And she, like, waffles between, the sort of kind of babbling, you'd expect from a kid, and then just being really well spoken at times.
Yeah. Also, the kid's name is Char. I realize we haven't mentioned that.
Yes.
I'm gonna point this out here because it does get better over the course of the reading. But like in the first couple of chapters of Char appearing, she looks like she's drawn in a completely different art style from the rest of the characters, and it really like seemed odd
Hmm.
to me.
She she reminded me just off the character design of, what was it? Medusa, I think, from, Soul Eater?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Obviously, you mean Child Medusa, not the.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Medusa in the child form.
yeah, yeah. I can see that. It's like they make her a. She's got that kind of like gag character energy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Her
but like
proportions are kind of weird.
her eyes are very big, but not in the way you would expect like a child's eyes to be. They seem like they're on the wrong scale.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
gets better.
As it goes on. But,
So I
we established that she doesn't have a home, she's an orphan, and she claims that she's being chased by a sorcerer, so she needs somebody to protect her, but she's not really willing to give up too much information, so Chihiro takes her to go get some dinner. Maybe this will, get the kid to explain something, and at the very least, Chihiro, despite being, Mr. Edgy, roaring rampage of revenge protag, still has a bit of a soft spot, and he's not just gonna let the kid go hungry.
yeah, but he's got the same soft spot like every edgy 80s action movie hero has, where it's just like,
Oh yeah,
well, you
no,
don't mess with kids.
this is very much. I'm a loner now. I've been hardened by the cruel world, and I will now go on my lonely quest of blood and death. Hi, I'm an innocent child that needs protection. I will now become a father figure. It's the classic.
This is a manga, so it's really more of a big brother thing than a father figure thing, but yes, it's that.
Yeah.
He is 18 in 2 months. A weirdly specific amount of time.
It's like he was just on the cusp of turning 15 during the
No,
before before the
he had
all
just
right, yeah.
turned 15 because dad was just like, "You're 15 now. I guess I better have to train you the grisly parts of like making swords."
Right. Conveniently, right as the soba comes and they're eating their food and she's finally starting to open up and explain the plot. Some weirdo walks in.
Well, as some weirdo is walking in, we're learning that the super duper most powerful sword ever actually is one of the MacGuffins. How about that?
Mhm.
Yeah, because she mentions like it had cloud powers or something, and he immediately went like, "Oh, wait, hold on. That's a weird thing to know." But
Yeah,
more importantly, this background NPC walks in, except he's designed way too much to not be a player character. Like this manga was not fooling me at all when this dude walked through the front dressed like a like He's dressed like a Final Fantasy spellcaster. Like, no one else is dressed outside of like normal modern clothing, and then this dude comes in like,
and then this like Chinese wizard looking man.
His dope hoop earrings.
who then sits down at the table directly behind them, and then gets an argument with the waiter about how he doesn't want to order any food. He just wants to sit at this table, which like we find out he was tailing the girl to like kidnap her again. If your plan is to be subtle, just order something. Holy shit.
Like you're an evil mercenary. You can just walk out on the bill.
But no, clearly what he'd rather do instead of being subtle was murder the waiter, which meant there was no point in being subtle to get into the building. Like,
Absolutely none. He kills the waiter with chopsticks and then starts summoning little dolls that explode. Thus begins our first true shonen action fight, where it's not just, Chihiro with his big cool sword myrtleizing the hell out of a ton of people. It's an actual brawl.
yep. We also find out that Mr. Shiba is a mage because he teleports in, takes Char out of harm's way, and then teleports away.
We had already seen him teleport before that point, but yeah.
Oh, right. With the hostage. I think I
Mhm.
conflated those two scenes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically the same scene again. He doesn't really
Just
explain what
reinforced.
he doesn't really explain what he's doing the first time. This time he's like, by the way, I am in fact a sorcerer. That wasn't a mistaken paneling. It's not phrased negatively like that. This is a good scene. I shouldn't mock it. Because I like the whole Chihiro is like, this is like pulling off the cool guy lone wolf badass thing well, where he's like, I'm sorry I didn't believe you. And she's like, it's fine. I'll forgive you if you please save me.
On it.
Which I liked that. That was fun. They have a dynamic.
They have a fun dynamic building up here.
So anyway, the sorcerer basically blows up the soba shop they were in.
Yeah.
And then they start fighting full force in the street out front. Like, to the point people are running away, and there are like explosions everywhere, and giant goldfish have been materialized into existence.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Mr. Shiba makes passing reference about the fact they were supposed to be keeping a low profile, but we get further established later on. This was a terrible idea
Oh, yeah.
for like all parties involved to be this like overt with what they're doing.
Having a massive explosive shonen action battle was the worst decision everyone could have made.
But too bad, we need to name all the powers that Chihiro can do. So
yeah, we need to finish establishing his power set, and we also need to have this villain be a scenery-chewing nutcase who will scream
Relevant details.
backstory revealing taunts at Char. Yes, child, look at what happens when you run away. I have blown this boy up he has died fruitlessly, just like your mother did.
yes, did you need any more exposition? I could tell you about the inner workings of our secret gang that doesn't like to be talked about. Okay, wait.
And now you are once again truly all alone.
And then the protagonist steps out of the explosion totally fine, like a protagonist.
Yeah. Now the levels of subtlety in in the storytelling here oscillate wildly. Occasionally they will, like as established earlier in the first few chapters, manga can pull off very effective, quiet storytelling, revealing things through action and discussion of, like character motivation and whatnot. And then there's shit like this.
And then there's Shadow the Hedgehog over here.
Well, that's the protagonist. Like,
Yeah,
man, if he just had a gun.
this would go so much better.
I'm just saying, if his dad had forged him a gun, this would be just like an action movie.
It would. I mean, it's already like the plot of Death Wish, so
Yeah.
The steel of this Glock slide was folded 1,000 times.
But we learn another one of the powers of Enton. His enchanted sword is the red koi, or the red goldfish, can absorb and counter the sorcery of his opponents. So he just eats one of the explosions and blasts away the wizard.
Yep. It's been established by this point that Black's power is basically the air shockwave thing that most swords can do in fiction.
They
Mhm.
kind of explain it as it's like concentrated spiritual energy, but then they also explain that how the katanas work is they take spiritual energy that's like in everybody's life force and multiply it, and the
Yeah.
multiplication effect is too much to be contained in a human body, so it has to be expelled. And his sword does it in the form of those goldfish. And like the entire point of that is if you have a katana, you are 10 times stronger than a sorcerer.
Yeah, that's just how cool these enchanted blades are. They are universally by themselves a massive power enhancer, and then they also each have their own unique evocations because they're artifacts. Not dead somehow, but whatever.
Everyone is incredibly fragile unless they're a main character or plot relevant. Because holy shit, does everyone
Yeah.
else just die by like their neck dissolving?
Uh-huh. And I love Char trying to play it cool, like, oh yes, that was masterfully done. What an excellent fight. You are truly worthy to be my bodyguard. I'm doing this pro bono. But we are on the same path essentially, and we've already started this like sibling bond, so I guess I'll protect you. Ooh, good. Common interests. Most
I
excellent.
love common interests.
Anyway, you there, scumbag. The kid said that there was a cloud that came out of the sword when it was drawn. That's Cloud Gouger. Where is it? I won't tell you nothing. Okay, here. Mr. Shiba, you have him. I'm taking the kid to get more food because he interrupted dinner.
Ah, yes, Mr. Shiba. He watched all of 24, and now he knows that torture always works. They do just offhandedly mention that Mr. Shiba tortures information out of people.
All the time. Yeah. He's
You know, actually, considering the amount of murder they do in this, like, that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
It's the same amount of murder you see in 24, actually.
They've got gray morality. They're not your ordinary heroes.
Oh my god, this does,
Yeah.
like, it's so hyper violent, but is not, like, mature in any other aspect.
It starts off subtle and mature and it tips over into edgy really quickly.
Mhm.
It's the kind of fun edgy that you can laugh at really easily. Like I don't know how self-aware it is, but it's at least having enough fun that it doesn't get grating or anything, but man, does it have some
It has some moments.
cold steel energy.
Yes, as the torture interrogation is happening and Chihiro and Char are going on a food run, and every time it's like, okay, you've got your food, we're heading back now. I want dessert. Okay, you've had your dessert, we're heading back now. I need a drink.
Guys, can I get away with just drawing the same page 4 times?
I mean,
Turns out you can. Anyway,
no, they are different because there is exactly one panel that doesn't even have borders that's different in each of them.
They have
Therefore, they're completely different pages
they get a different food item, and they've traced a photo of a different
of a
store.
restaurant.
different restaurant.
I mean, that is the joke, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really when I turned the page to like the 4th time they did it, I'm like, okay.
All right, guys, let's move it along. But this incredibly dangerous villain, the man who ordered the kid be recaptured, who is he? And we cut to our main bad guy for this arc, lounging in. He is going full like Yakuza boss. He's lounging in a hot tub. He's got a bunch of attendants. He's got a dude basically crucified with his eyes gouged out that he's interrogating.
He's got kind of like black markings on his shoulder blades, like reminiscent of like a back tattoo.
Mm-hmm. He's got
Obviously not an actual back tattoo, because that'd be a lot to draw, I can only assume.
some goons walk in. It's like, hey, boss, we ain't heard from any of the others. But, all right, well, then I guess we're gonna need to go big or go home. And with that little bit of foreshadowing, look at this. The two of them, Chihiro and Char, are bonding. She's happy. She's having a good time. Isn't this sweet? Shiba calls with an update. It's like, yeah, so I got the sorcerer to talk. Turns out his boss is this incredibly powerful weapons dealer guy by the name of Sojo, and he is like one of the most powerful businessmen in the entire Japanese underworld. You might want to be careful about that.
Yeah, right on it, Mr. Shiba. And then hangs up. And then Char is just like, hey, why aren't we like driving? The light's green. We're kind of just stuck at this intersection. And then Chihiro clearly knew the pavement in front of them was being warped by sorcery into this gross amalgamation of human bodies.
Yeah.
That's like, I see we don't have any time for a scene transition. We're just going to have a fight right here.
We're gonna have a fight right here in this intersection with a bunch of cars around after we've established that it's a bad idea to have big, showy shonen action fights in public.
To be fair, only Mr. Shiba casually said that. It's later we get the character who explicitly says that was stupid.
Yeah. And also, we learn pretty quickly as the action scene unfolds that Sojo had basically put out a John Wick 3 style like universal bounty for the kid, saying that if you bring me the kid and the sword, I'm going to hand you a blank check. And immediately every scumbag in Tokyo is like, payday, let's go. Because we haven't hit enough revenge action movie tropes.
Quick, let's throw in some sorcerers who have cool gimmicks, but otherwise are killed relatively quickly. What about a dude who makes clay copies of himself?
Awesome. Plenty of
Then
guys
to slice up with the sword, yeah. We've got one thing we do really well, and we're gonna leverage the hell out of it.
I also like we get precisely one panel showing what the Satan War or Satan they just call
Seitei. It's Seitei. It's Seitei.
Yeah, the Seitei War.
To the best of my ability, that doesn't appear to be an actual word, so it's it's vaguely like unification, but I don't think it's like an act. If Jay was on, she would tell us, but
but she is not. So
unfortunately, she's on a revenge quest to find a lost family heirloom.
We will sit here in our ignorance. But damn, the like apocalyptic scene from the war. It's like, yes, those 6 blades had the power to end that hell on earth. And there's, like the crashing seas, the torn up landscape, tornadoes, thunderbolts and lightning, a giant meteor that it looks like somebody is shooting a laser beam into.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on when they show the katanas in the flashbacks, but holy shit.
What in the hell was this war, dude?
What was this war, and why does Sojo have one of these katanas?
Yeah.
It's really the question that's not answered in our reading.
Mm-hmm. Because we find out that he's the one that has Cloud Gouger.
Yeah. I mean, we knew his organization had it. We get then confirmed that he personally has it a little later on.
Yeah.
Oh, this is almost as exciting as the Lunar Civil War.
Goddamn Polar Cola Wars!
The Polar Cola Wars!
But the whole fight with the clay guy is basically he's just been getting like ganked on by Chihiro, and then Chihiro sees this guy come out of nowhere. He's like, oh, there's a second one. Well, that's another guy I'm just gonna have to like clown on with my amazing katana skills. Oh, that's weird. He's getting really close to me. I'm having a headache. Oh, nope. Now I'm having a trauma flashback to my dad being murdered in front of my eyes. Oh, God. How long was I out? 5 seconds. What?
But it
5 hours. He says 5 seconds, but they're in a separate location, so I'm not sure what happened there.
I think they're still in the same alley, just from a different angle. I don't know.
I thought they're in like a warehouse.
Are they?
I could be wrong.
I think, yeah, no, they don't show a lot of backgrounds when he's cutting up the clay figure.
Oh, he fought his way
minions.
into like
Yeah, he fought his way into there. They just don't show enough backgrounds to make that like it flows when you're reading it, but if you're just if you're just recounting it like we are, then
I'm like, wait, no, he definitely went to a separate location. When did that happen?
yeah.
Yeah, it was while he was running from the Clay Army.
Yeah. So he basically has a 5-hour trauma flashback in the course of 5 seconds.
Yeah, and it's like, yes, now that my genjutsu has paralyzed you, let us explain why the child is necessary. Behold, I will break her knee with one hand. You see, she's a part of this clan of people that are Aijin. I mean, they can regenerate their wounds.
Yeah, it's essentially
The X-Men 98 theme starts playing.
Well, I thought they were all killed off years ago. I guess this one managed to escape.
Oh my! This doesn't get established now. It gets established in another exposition dump later, but I'll just talk about it now because it's so out of place the next time they mention it. Is basically this girl's clan during the war or shortly after the war, because the war is when everyone found out magic exists. Because we're not going to go into that. It's
it's
a whole thing.
I've got thoughts about that, but we'll get to it later.
We'll talk about that in the giant exposition dump this is coming from. I just want to talk about this small minor line where they say after the war, they found out that her clan could heal from any injury. And as such, a rumor spread that if you eat their flesh, you become immortal. And all but like 3 of them were consumed.
Mm-hmm.
There was a mass murder spree to kill and eat these people.
That seems normal.
Turns out the whole cannibalizing their flesh, making you immortal thing is bullshit. But they can regenerate, and Sojo wants to do something with that, so we're going to take this kid to him.
She also briefly mentions that she was in a cage before. She hadn't said that yet, but
yeah, she was cooped up somewhere where it was dark and she only ate mush.
Which is why she likes different foods so much.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chihiro hears that sad story and that makes him angry. And then he also gets hit by the genjutsu again, which reminds him of his trauma. But he comes out of that going like, you don't understand. My hatred is what makes me strong. You've only made me stronger. And then murders the guy who was...
He's powered by trauma. What is this, Valvrave?
Some shonen protagonist had to say it out loud, I guess.
This is like if someone read the Chunin exam of Naruto and didn't understand why these people were just like shouting their trauma flashbacks at each other. And they're like, yeah, that makes them stronger, right? The competition to have the saddest backstory. Except in this setting, it literally makes him stronger.
It focuses his hatred, so his spiritual energy rises and he can kill them all.
Because, like, he already had intense bloodlust to these people, so I don't quite understand what... I don't know. He got stronger because he got stronger.
He got stronger because he got sad.
Yeah, he wanted to protect Char because he empathizes with her not having a parent, I guess.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, basically.
That's it.
Yeah, then they leave because he murders a bunch of people, and
some more mooks show up, and then
the author insert NPC shows up to just solve their problem for them.
This guy is
he's a guy.
Oh, he's a government employee. They're the strongest of all of us. You don't understand. I work for the government, and the government decides to protect people from the nation, but they don't protect people in the nation. Oh, is that why we're not rescuing the kidnapped girl? No, we only do stuff that is vaguely relevant to the plot, but not relevant to your plot. That's why we didn't investigate your dad's murder.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he made the 6 nukes for us, and we gave them back for some reason.
We live in a world where the government doesn't investigate murders. Like,
yeah, I don't know what the Kamunabi are about. They're supposed
to be like special forces that Like,
this like cabal of sorcerer cops.
They say they're an anti-mage task force, but you would think that that would mean that they'd be particularly interested in this particular plot thread.
it's like, yeah, you think they would investigate murders done by mages? Well, hold on. They did investigate. They went to go track down the swords that were stolen, and then decided that wasn't a good use of their time and quit. But we'll get to where that's revealed. Yeah, in case it isn't obvious, I think me and Sam are on the same page of the world building of this slowly dissolves into.
Oh no, that's unanimous.
Good, we're on the same thing.
Yeah.
The world building starts off really cool, and right here, when this character gets introduced, it starts to just dissolve. Like,
Yeah.
I was on the opinion that it started off really high and was going down the entire time. This is the point where it nosedives.
this is the breaking point. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's one of those ones where it's like, okay, but where are the guns though? You know, it's like there are little things like that that you can forgive either via willing suspension of disbelief or if they have an explanation for it down the line. But like now, I don't have that enough trust to wait on that for you.
Yeah. See, I had been enjoying this quite a lot, because, well, mostly just because it reminded me of a different thing that I had read before, City of Jade, it's a book series, basically same idea. It's like Yakuza discover magic, fought in some big war, and now years later, there's some bullshit involving the magic and the war, and things are breaking down. But the world building in that feels much more cohesive than this. Like, I don't know. We'll get more into it later as we deal with more of the Kaminabi.
there is a huge lore dump that I think is a much better time to talk about our problems with this.
Yeah. Either way, this particular guy, Azami,
He literally shows up to be like, "Hey, I took care of those guys for you. Also, there's a bounty put on your head. Don't worry, I had my guys." That gets revealed later, but he put in a good word with his government connections to basically erase the bounty put on him. And he drops the lore drop about like, by the way,
which that sure is something. You're telling me the government is strong enough to pull illegal bounties off the dark web?
yeah, so they're hyper competent until it needs to like investigate a very powerful man's murder. Like this
They're
isn't like a random dude.
They're hyper competent, but only when they're doing things that avoid derailing the plot. If it's about actually solving the plot, suddenly it's not worth their time, despite the fact that this is literally the job you were created to deal with.
It's fine. That doesn't happen right now. He's literally just here to tell him, hey, by the way, there's going to be an illegal auction in a month that the government is well aware of. So you'd think that illegal auction is already a terrible idea. But they're going to be selling one of the weapons of mass destruction katanas. Also, from how it was designed, there are 6 boxes, except one of them is wrapped up in ropes and locked shut with a padlock. That's the one being sold. So,
gee, I wonder which one's the most powerful and the most cursed.
Who knows? But he basically says that, and then he dips. Like,
oh, hey Shiva, hi Azami. Do we have some sort of backstory relevance to each other? I don't know. We're probably old war buddies or something. Anyway, that's your ticking clock. Later.
By the way, I'm not going to report Chihiro's existence to the government because I'm such a good friend of you. I'm like, hold on. Okay.
This is also where we get some of the berating of, hey, giant magic fight in the middle of a populated area. Don't do it again.
Yeah, because like that makes the populace scared and then the government has to act. And I'm like, at this point, the government's kind of being portrayed as like they don't have the resources to be stopping every single incident.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's explicitly said not to be true later. So, whatever. So basically that he walks away and then almost immediately they return to like the weapon shop they were at only to have the dude they'd been warned about and had been lit up as the big bad to just come kicking in the door.
I love this in the worst way. It's so stupid. It's like, all right, so this Sojo guy is immensely dangerous. He's
Are we gonna skip over the fact that the first guy we fought has this whole change of heart thing?
Oh my god,
Oh
yes.
my god, that too.
They do need to establish that he like calls his sister. It's like, hey, yeah, I know I became a dick and I was a criminal murdering people. I've given up being a sorcerer. I'm gonna come home. Mom's not answering her phone. It's like, okay, I'll pick you up tomorrow so we can go talk to her together. But I'm still upset with you, little brother. And he's like, okay. And he's like, hey,
This is a
sis,
chance to reconcile.
hey, sis, thanks for picking me up. Oh my god, you've been stabbed. And Gojo's sitting in the back. Gojo.
Oh my god, I've been stabbed.
Oh no, Gojo's sitting in the back.
It's Satoru
He's
I
unlocked
believe it at this
infinity.
point.
No.
Honestly, Gojo would fit better in this series than he does in Jujutsu
Yeah.
Kaisen.
So Sojo is sitting in the backseat of the car. And interestingly, that's not what his sword can do. Because we get listed the sword Cloud Gouger's powers later. I'm not sure which power he used to teleport into the van.
I think it's supposed to be a thing of like he like broke into the
Water,
car.
I guess, maybe.
He might have just broken into the car using regular old criminal methods.
Yeah, he does have. He's still got to be invisible though, because he's just sitting in the back seat. I think his mist power.
The thing is, how did the now ex-sorcerer not notice the blood on the window is the thing for me, because this smacks of Jack the Ripper was hiding inside of the horse's neck the whole time, sort of energy.
Yeah.
But like it's even more like it would be even more obvious. But hey, if we had this make any sense, then we couldn't have the "oh no, I've been impaled" moment.
Oh my! Yeah, because he gets stabbed through the seat, and he's just like, "You thought you could give up? If you're going to master something, you should at least dedicate one measly lifetime." And then the dude's just like, "Well, fine. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna take you with me. I'm gonna get at least one kill." And he like turns himself into a Dharma bomb and is going to explode, and is then frozen in place with the ice power. And Sojo gets out of the car, going like, "Hey, by the way, I only knocked your sister unconscious. It looks like you're going to get the one measly kill of your career," and then walks away to reveal that he blows up killing his sister. And I'm like, holy shit, does this lay it on thick? Like,
yeah, it lays it on so thick. It's like, dude, we were already introduced to this guy with him lounging in the hot tub while a guy was crucified. And then he, put out the APB on the kid and caused all this chaos. He seems like this man behind the desk, dark manipulator type.
I'm the puppet master holding all the strings, and now he's suddenly decided, nah, fuck it, I'm just going to do everything by myself. Like,
now he's the guy who goes out and gets his hands dirty, I guess.
But if he isn't, then how would the protagonist get to have his one-on-one fight with him?
Yeah, I would not be surprised if an editor stepped in at this point, because it's just such a drastic change in the story to have him just, I'm gonna walk up and challenge you in the middle of the street, But yeah, that's what Shoujo does. He shows up at the weapon shop and basically goes like, "Hey, I'm gonna fight you," and Chihiro is like, "Yeah, okay, well, you're gonna fight me because I also have a enchanted blade." Ah, yes, I wanted to know what it's like for enchanted blades to cross.
Yeah, this is the point where we find out what his motivation definitely has been all along. Of he wants to see two of the weapon of mass destruction swords actually go up against each other.
Yeah, because this is also where we get like a chapter starts in the middle of this fight. I don't think it's at the beginning, but like I'm bringing it up now. Is basically the chapter starts with like, ah, yes, 15 years ago. There's a museum exhibition going around showing the works of the great Kunishige Rokuhira. He is known as a hero who ended the war to all the people because he created these amazing weapons that have never hurt civilians. But if they were to ever hurt civilians, then everything would turn and they would all know that he was a horrible monster who made scary weapons. And I'm like, what the fuck is going?
It would break the faith of the people.
What's going on here?
I don't know, man.
I guess there was no other side to this war. Like it.
Well, no, there was.
There used to be.
There used to be, yeah.
The katanas are that good.
Because Sojo's just like, all the blades were on one side during the war. Now they will clash.
They're trying to have their cake and eat it too with how terrifying the weapons are.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, conveniently the nukes never did any bad things that people were upset about, but now they might be upset. I guess the implication is literally they just genocided the other side of this war, which is horrifying in its own right. Like,
It's a choice.
Who was the other war even against? We don't know.
Yeah, that's the only hint I have is like I read a thing on someone suggesting that it sounds similar to Unification War, so it could literally just be a bunch of sides vying for power, which is slightly more horrifying.
Yeah, because if they genocided all of that, then that's a choice.
I don't know a situation you end the war and you have every single civilian going like, yes, the katanas never did anything wrong. That could then be broken by one person using them wrong. Like, I don't know. But the whole thing that I've been complaining about this. I really do like Sojo's whole morality here because he's basically saying, I look up to Kunishige. He is my hero. He is so misunderstood. I have looked up everything about him. And I want you to know someone who made such amazing weapons that are so capable of like mass destruction would want his tools to be used to their fullest. I understand him. Meanwhile, Chihiro's going like, no, I talked with my dad every day. I definitely know he didn't want that. You're a monster. And I'm like, yes, good. I love when people have like strong ideals and then they are misinterpreted by other characters in fiction. Because like,
yeah.
This is the most human a character feels in this manga, in that they have misinterpreted the person they idolize.
Chihiro's dad, and for all of the cartoonishness that he does do, Sojo are two of the characters that I feel are the strongest in this, because the intellect, the maturity, and the subtlety really come out in those two characters. It's just a lot of other characters are so aggressively, they're so aggressively anime.
Oh, yeah. Jacob, we haven't even gotten to the next arc.
There were some choices made in that, but we'll get to it. Complaints you could have about like the writing, the characters, the storytelling. One thing that this series is good at is good fights, which in all honesty is a good chunk of what a lot of people are coming to this for. So,
I liked the start of this where basically Sojo is jumping off the roof and going like he wanted his weapons to be used as he wanted his katana to be used as weapons of mass destruction. I am going to cause so many civilian casualties with the lightning power of my katana. And Chihiro's like, nope, that's definitely not what he'd want. And then basically goes, it gets revealed that what he did was he caused his katana to generate electricity at the tip. Sure. I assume that's part of Red's power, I guess.
Yeah, I assume it's just the copy power that Enten has.
Yeah.
Because Sojo goes to like, because they're playing up how much more powerful he is. Like, I'm using all my coolest tricks, and he's not even trying. He's barely winded. He's so much stronger than me. It's like, all right, kid. Well, clearly you're some sort of puerile, sugary goody two shoes who thinks that katanas are tools of justice that need to protect people. Let me show you how it's really done. He dives down. He's charging up his big blast move.
And Chihiro's just like, I'm not going to allow you to kill all these civilians. Generates some electricity at the tip of his sword, which causes him to use his own body as a lightning rod to take in all the attack. And he's just standing there, singed to a crisp, going like, I told you your attack would not work. It's like, oh, cool. And then later on, we get retconned that this was not actually his full power, which I'm like, cool. You know what? Whatever.
But it's fine.
It's fine. I don't care at this point. I do want to mention, I really liked the opening line of this where he sees Sojo come in with like blood on the katana and just goes like, is that katana coated in the blood of evildoers? And Sojo just goes, nah, that doesn't seem interesting to me. Well, guess I'm going to have to kill you.
Can't let you have it then.
I'm just like, oh, that's such a stupid line, but also so great. But But yeah, they keep fighting, and basically there's a whole thing where they kidnap Char.
The government shows up to break up the main fight because we have to establish that the main character isn't ready yet because shonen.
But the government shows up to not do anything too, is the thing.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Sojo just proceeds to immediately get away. But whilst
it's
that was
hilarious.
happening,
It's hilarious too, is how he sees
he
that.
just fucking leaves.
But he senses the power of these 4 people, or 5. I think it's 5 people who shows up like, yes, 5 agents. But I could probably take them and Chihiro. The problem is those 2. And then it pretends like it's not going to tell us who those 2 are, and then immediately just tells you who those 2 are. And I'm like, then what was the point? Like,
because it's
Shiba and super government guy, who's apparently even better than the special forces.
Ansem or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And Chihiro is also using the Kaioken.
Yeah,
because that's the third power of his sword, Nishiki. Instead of just projecting his spirit energy through the blade, he instead covers his body with the power, which makes him super duper strong and fast.
They describe it so weird too. They decide to say it's used to power up kicks and punches, which is not how he uses it, but like.
And also speed. It's the Kaioken. It's just the Kaioken.
Yeah, he's just supercharging his muscles with spirit energy. Like, But what we see is Char's leg dangling out of a car as she's being kidnapped, and then Chihiro stops the car and kills the guys in it, only to find out it's only Char's leg, and he's just like, what the hell? And then we cut to the car that Shoujo got in with crying Chihiro in the back. Oh, I'm sorry. There's also a guy who stays alive long enough to go like, no, the boss told us that we had to cut off her legs and split her parts up in different directions so you couldn't find us as easy. And then we cut back to Char sitting in the back of the car crying as her legs regenerate. And I'm like, okay, yep, this manga was already hyper violent. It just took another step up. Like,
maiming children. Oh, always.
It's a choice.
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with it if it just treated it with the seriousness of what it is, but it doesn't. Like, it's
that's
like I made the Aijin joke earlier, but Aijin took it very seriously.
Yeah, Aijin can kill kids all the time, and that works because
it's that treating it with the reverence it deserves thing is the line between dark and edgy is what it ultimately comes down to.
This is super edgy, but Shoujo gets away while also like fantasizing about like, yes, I've got some more research to do because
Chihiro mentioned in passing that he was the son of the.
It's so stupid too, like because he has a moment earlier in the fight where he's just like, I can't tell him that that's my father because that's supposed to be a secret. And then at the end, he just says, you can't use my father's blade. But then doesn't react as if that slipped out. It's just.
But he needed to get that plot revelation.
I'll give Chihiro the benefit of the doubt. That was after he tanked the super huge lightning blast and used his Kaioken.
Yeah, so him being a little bit mentally See, that's the credit I'd give it if it earned it, though.
Yeah. He was at like 2% energy and 1% health, but
that's where this ends. And then he basically collapses from Kaiokening because that was a bad idea. Also, he has a lot of injuries from the fight he was just in. And
also, this was like the 5th fight he's been in this night. Because did we mention this has all been the same day?
Yeah, this has all happened like within less than an hour of each other.
So he is rushed to the hospital and basically spends 5 days in a coma, which is a great time to break. So
yeah, we'll be right back as we'll continue to
we'll be right back with a completely different manga.
Basically.
And welcome back to the show, folks, where last we had left our Revenger. He had gotten his ass severely kicked, and is now,
but in a cool way.
But in a cool way, because like it wasn't just the injuries; it was him defending civilians and burning himself out using his superpower. He wakes up from a coma in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, I got to go out and fight. And they're basically like, hey, no, I talked to your doctor. You're not going to be healed for 1 month. Also, it's been 5 days. What?
1 month? But that's the ticking clock to the auction selling off the sword. Also, Char's been taken. And like, I'm going to be honest, I still care about the sword, but I've got this like sibling thing going on with her. And I really want to make sure she's safe. Because I think they're doing some agent shit to her over there. And look, no, you're not going anywhere, kid. You need to recover. Also, I could have taken you to the government like super hospital, but we still don't want the government to know that your dad had both a son and made a 7th sword. So we took you to this public hospital.
Also, to keep the secret from the government, we invited 5 Spec Ops government agents to just kind of sit in the room with you. Basically, they just do Three Stooges shit. That's all they're here for.
They seem like really important characters that are going to be involved in the plot for the rest of this story.
These freaking jobbers, man.
They're introduced in such a way, and they all have such drastically different character designs. I'm like, okay, are you adding like 17 characters at once for some reason? Like, yeah, sure. Like, they're so intricately designed, and they all have this personality.
They look like Bleach OCs.
They're 100%, yes, Bleach characters is what they are, and like the whole thing is they're basically like, yeah, we're going on the mission to go take out Shoujo and get his katana back. We actually can't rescue Char because the government doesn't believe in helping people. But I guess if someone were to come along, we couldn't tell you to not do it because technically you're not even part of the thing.
You're clearly too much of a hot-blooded shonen protagonist to just sit here and recover in bed.
They do an entire page of each of those characters just saying what a cool badass Chihiro is, and it felt like a parody.
It really did.
My God, he took that blast rather than letting civilians get hurt. That's super cool.
Yep. And now, despite the fact that he's so hurt, he's determined to come along on this mission. Well, there's clearly no way we can prevent him from going.
Oh, you better tell us a flashback. And then we come back from the flashback, and it's him telling them the story in the bathroom while 3 of them are pissing at the urinals. I believe there's a female member that's not in the bathroom for this joke. But then the punchline of this joke is that the dude in the mask opens the stall that he was taking a shit in to like, oh, you guys were talking? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, literal clown car happening right now.
I have no freaking clue.
We also get exposition about why Char is important.
Because you see, the reason there aren't more of these enchanted blades, why Chihiro's dad is the only one who could make them, is because they're actually made out of a super duper special ore that channels spirit energy. And anyone who there's only like 250 kilos of it in all Japan. But if we can't really use it because if you grab it, then it overloads all your spirit juice and you can explode.
And I'm just saying, man, what if you were to just take a small chunk of that and put it in some kind of explosive cartridge that could be projected in a direction from a long range to some kind of like carbine barrel
or something?
Maybe you could even rifle that barrel so it has a spin to it so it maintains trajectory.
And God.
Because we also get you're like, oh, well, Matt, that's stupid. They can't break apart the material, obviously, unless they were to like shave off tiny amounts of it to put in a little girl's food.
Yeah, because they're either like dosing Char with this stuff, or they're like harvesting. Because there's like these creepy doctors that
blood
are just
and
like,
organs and body parts.
Yeah,
and such.
I thought they were adding like metal shavings to her food, but then they have her blood to put into the ore hold, so I'm not actually sure what they were doing.
Now, to be fair, I don't think they know what they're doing either, and that's kind of part of the point. Like they're experimenting with this because they're trying to figure out what the lost technique was.
Mm-hmm.
So like there is a level of they're kind of they're throwing a bunch of darts at the wall and seeing what sticks.
And if we have this infinite source of human biomatter from this child, then we can just yeet things at the stuff until we figure out like what configuration is necessary to stabilize it.
I assumed it was they're trying to use the fact her cells regenerate to make like human biomass that is resistant to it. Because if all they needed to do was have like an infinite source of flesh to throw at it, like human life is already meaningless in this series. They could just be throwing bodies on the stone. Like,
yeah,
they could just be collecting dissonance and yeeting them into the tube.
They kill so many people. They could just be throwing corpses on it. Like it doesn't. They must be doing something with the fact her body regenerates.
It's not very well explained because you're supposed to just see that the child being tortured and be sad and angry.
Child is suffering and they're doing a science, and we can't let them do a science.
My theory is entirely based on the fact there appears to be like specks in her food that's like a mush, so that would make sense that they also say like give her another dose, but I don't know what that means. Like
it means whatever the plot's going to ultimately say it means.
It ends up not mattering is the spoiler alert here. So we go back to the fucking Keystone cops as they do their comedy routine about how cool it is that they're the top secret agents in the entire government.
They're the special anti-cloud gouger strike force. They've got a plan to take down Sojo and win this boss fight. Except we actually don't really have much of a plan. We're just 5 of the toughest guys here. Hey kid, how sword work?
Also, we have a secret 6th member that's already on the mission and isn't going to be revealed until the very end of our reading.
Oh yeah, and since we can't stop you from going out, well, we'll make a compromise. We'll go kill him. You go save the kid.
But it's all wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't tell us you're doing that because the government can't help people.
Yeah, there's a lot of this sort of I know you're going to do the stupid hot-blooded thing, so I'm going to assist you and make it as safe as possible thing. I like it when authority figures realize that's what's going on and actually like plan accordingly because it makes them feel more competent. And that happens so rarely. But the problem is it's couched in all of this buffoonery.
It's also the fact Jacob, I'm on your side. I love it when like you've got like an FBI agent who goes like, look, there's due process here, but I agree with you. This is messed up. And this person's so powerful. They're just going to walk through all the red tape we can set up. It sure would be a shame if someone just killed him and then we couldn't investigate it. And I'm like, that's cool. You're acknowledging your belief system has flaws and you're just turning a blind eye because you believe that sacrifice of that is worth the greater good. The problem is the government agents in this have such a stupid line in the sand they've drawn about what they can do to help, which is nothing.
It's like, freaking Shiba says it at one point. It's like, yeah, your whole motto is like, you have to protect the nation, but you can't intervene in personal matters, which is so broad.
Also, like, what does that even mean?
Personal matters can't possibly mean not investigating the death of a like known weapon maker.
Yeah.
I keep saying that. There is actually an implication they did look into his death. It's just they're bad at I don't know. Like
if it would solve the plot too quickly, they are suddenly incompetent.
The problem is it is implied they don't help other people in the same situation is really the big deal.
The reason they were there in the first place to do the whole if someone were to go save her, we wouldn't be able to stop them. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
I know you're basically a walking mummy that shouldn't even be moving out of your bed, but yeah, we'll bring you on this murder mission we're going on. Oh wait, no, they don't even bring him along. He's doing a separate mission.
Yeah, a completely separate mission from them. But the actual reason why, like the official reason why they're there is because they want his expertise on how to fight Cloud Gouger. And in all honesty, the sort of like in medias res, almost like it almost has like a heist vibe kind of
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
it, despite being a fight.
Because this manga keeps shifting genres, but they're all 80s action cheese.
Yep.
It's just
Um,
different kinds. Now we're doing Ocean's 11 instead of friggin' Kill Bill.
Yeah, so it is going to be a little hard to summarize this because we actually have everything happening at once in like a heist movie, and basically they're all attacking the compound they know Sojo lives at.
well, no, it's worse than that. The special forces are attacking Sojo in the city after they castigated the protagonist for doing that exact thing.
Well, they've actually got a plan to.
Yeah, they one of them has the magic power to yeet concrete into the stratosphere. So they're it's a cool set piece for the fight. They're basically on a concrete slab flying through the air toward the ocean, which
6v1, final destination, no items except the katanas, I guess.
Very, very Bleach in that, hey, we need to have a fight in this urban area. What if we could fly? Oh, that solves all the problems.
Yep.
Yeah, because Sojo went out to do his like daily bath, is where he goes. We also find out
20
that
yen for the hair dryer. What has happened to the economy?
we also find out that he does this regularly, and he sent the Yakuza from like the very beginning we saw. Or they just look similar, actually, because they must not be the same people, but
Because
whatever.
they're all dead.
Yeah. It's very similar looking Yakuza who basically go, hey, we got you that piece of material you said. By the way, our sorcerer touched it and then he exploded. Are you gonna pay us for that? Yeah, no, I don't do that. I told you it would be a real blast. And he just responds with like fey nonsense of like his contract was puns. And
It blew his mind, didn't it?
And these known criminals respond to that with violence, which he was expecting. He then murders them and goes, hey, lady, call the cops for me. Also, can I have my katana back? And I'm like, wait, so he left the katana with
He left the katana in the locker with the rest of his valuables.
Which, to be fair, there is a panel at the very end of our reading which explains why this wasn't stupid. But I thought this was just him being cocky.
Yeah. It's... you need to like attune to it or whatever. I don't know.
They don't explain it other than don't worry about it, but whatever.
It's like,
Honestly, I think it would have been more interesting character element if it was just him being that cocky.
So he walks out of the bath. The special ops find him and then just yeet him into the sky with a concrete pillar, and then they start fighting on a concrete slab flying through the air. It's basically their plot line.
Which is really cool. It's really stupid, but it's really cool.
It's also like interspiced with the flashbacks to Chihiro in the hospital bed explaining how that sword works and like like how long the powers take to charge and everything.
Yeah, one of the things that we didn't mention before during the initial fight between Chihiro and Sojo is that Cloud Gouger's 3 abilities. It's got a lightning blast, it can conjure ice, and it can make a fog cloud for like escapes. And he can kind of charge up the the lightning move in order to make it bigger and stronger. But if he charges it up like that, it then has a cooldown period of like 10 to 20 seconds.
So you need to bait. So to beat this boss, you need to bait out the charged lightning attack with the dodge roll, and then
and then when he's recharging, then you jump him.
Yeah, basically Chihiro gives them the Dark Souls like online guide to how to beat the boss, which proves they have no honor. They looked up the guide before fighting him even once.
Look, they did the last bonfire they rested at was in Hokkaido. They're not going to wander all the way back here. Do you know how much of a run back that is?
So anyway, while they're doing that, Chihiro is basically solid snaking his way through.
He shot like a slasher villain. I love it.
And
there's like these group of mooks all playing cards at a table because, gosh, sure is boring being a guard. I'm gonna go take a piss. Don't come back. It's so boring here. Hey, he's been gone a while. Oh no, who's that shadowy figure over a body?
They've got the great scene where he's killed the other two guys, and the third guy at the table just sees the cell phone ring, stares at the person with the sword ready to kill him, picks up, answers, and says like, "Yeah, no, can I call you back? I'm having the runs."
One of those days.
Why is he framed like he's goddamn Virgil Devil May Cry?
He murders so many people.
He kills so many.
He's not
freaking-
your ordinary shonen protagonist. He's dark because he kills people.
Like, his moral compass is I only kill evildoers, and I'm like, man, I sure hope nothing ever challenges that morality.
Mhm.
Man, I sure hope none of these like contract killers had a family. Like, that really throws a wrench in your plans, doesn't it?
Yeah, and what do you define as like an evildoer? Obviously kidnapping kids, but
Yeah, I don't.
It's one of those ones where, like, the early chapters, I would have had faith that something like that might actually come up.
No,
but it's gotten
100%.
more pulpy and goofy.
Yeah, this is very 80s action movie where everyone like that is shot sold drugs to children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As they're dying, they go like, I wish I could have sold more coke to preschoolers. Ugh.
Yeah, because the morality here is you have the complete perfect innocence to rescue the dark and edgy heroes who are so complicated in their morality, except it really isn't because all of the villains are all just abject evil.
Yep. So at this point, we're also. It's very weird how they reveal it, but it kind of is at this point. Mr. Shiba is also here, and he is sent on a mission to a completely different place.
It's like a different part of the same compound because this is like a big Sengoku like style castle.
And Mr. Shiba runs into some sorcerers, and he's just like, oh, well, this was inevitable. I sure hope Chihiro knows he's not supposed to fight anyone. He's just supposed to just do a stealth mission. And then we cut to Chihiro, like, looking at more of these guards. And then a sorcerer comes up behind him to, like, stab him. He's like, I smelled blood. And I'm like, okay. Well, we've had every single character who knows anything tell us that Chihiro can't fight anymore currently, or he will die. But let's see how they ignore that, and they do it in what I consider a really, really lazy way.
Yeah,
He has a flashback where I dear reader, I'm probably flanderizing this, and the manga probably portrays it much more nicely, but like just the emotional reaction I have to this is literally he remembers his dad going like, yeah, no, swords take on the aspects of their users because they use like their life force, so a sword can actually have many uses. And then Chihiro realizes, you know, now that I'm weaker, that actually makes me stronger because I can make a bunch of tiny weak blades that kills everybody good. And then he makes a smaller version of his sword that's equally as powerful and faster.
I
Makes you wonder why he didn't just do that before.
Well, he didn't know how to do that because he wasn't weakened and put into a situation to be forced to use the energy armor to make him stronger. He was just using it as a gun. But the way he's doing it is better now that he's weaker.
I hate this so much because it does so many things that I love, and it does all of them in just bad to awful. Because, like, okay, you've got your sword that makes you strong, but it's also got 3 like unique powers to it. Cool, love it. And now it's like, oh, but what's this? We've been exploring these 3 powers, but what if you can personalize it somehow? Put a little spin on it with your own moves. Love it. So into that. And now it's just like, I've been pushed into a corner. I need to evolve in order to get out of the situation. Love it. And the established rivalry between him and Sojo. Sojo is getting his ass kicked by the
by the people who know the like combat strats to take him out.
Exactly. So it's like,
which is a strong parallel.
Parallels. He's going to have some sort of dark awakening that's going to become a Diablo sex machina. Well, our hero's going to get some sort of hero awakening. This is so cool. And it's all done in like 3 pages.
Yeah, it's not earned. Like, that's ultimately what the problem is.
It's just blazed through. And then it's like the thing doesn't even make any sense. It's not like a new version of his power. It's instead of doing one big slash, I actually slashed that guy 20 times weekly, but it still had the exact same effect.
It had the exact same effect. Yeah, no, like
there's no material difference other than the fact that I said I did it 20 times in the blink of an eye, which feels like it's more energy expenditure, Mr. Injured on 2% power.
It's because he's making the fish. Like, he's not actually slashing 20 times. He's attacking with 20 fish.
But he has to make the fish with his own energy. Yeah, no, I mean, not for nothing. There's a pretty easy way of resolving this problem. If you had just established through a longer fight that Chihiro would normally be able to handle these guys, but he can't because he's so badly injured. And like, yes, technically they do that. But like, if it had been established with more than them just saying it.
Yeah, because the problem is we get introduced to the sorcerer, and the sorcerer does nothing before he does this and kills him. Like
exactly. If there had actually been a fight there where Chihiro, like, you know, like have a like a back and forth between them, and Chihiro's about to do whatever the finishing move would be, but then like his injury stops when he gets slapped down. And then you establish that it's okay that these attacks are definitely weaker than normal, like not have them be as extravagant as all the other attacks, but just have it be like a slice across the throat or something. That would work.
Yeah, like,
but you need to earn that.
Like how I would do this scene is literally have him, like, because of his injury, like he's doing his ninja, then like he like lands wrong and like trips and falls down into a crowd of normal guards.
Yeah.
And then realizes, oh shit, I've got to fight. I can't like take them out one by one using stealth. I'm going to try the technique. And then he uses the technique and it's a bunch of tiny attacks and that kills all the guards. I'm like, cool. And then the sorcerer shows up going like, I smelled blood from this massacre. And then he tries the attack again and then it fails because it's so much weaker. That would have been cool.
Oh,
that's not what happened.
And then actually, okay, now we're just script doctoring this. It fails because it's so much weaker to establish that it's a different technique and him personalizing it. Like he tries to like go through the iron gauntlets, but it doesn't work because it's a weaker attack. And then like doing a thing like he like targets a vital area and like slits his throat or something instead of trying to just brute force his way directly through him.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, I think in universe, if I'm understanding this page correctly, what is happening is he's using the sword multiplies power. We know that. He's using the sword power that like gives him like the Zenkai boost, and then he's using that Zenkai boost through the sword to multiply it again to then do the energy technique, but that's not stable, and that's why it makes a bunch of tiny fish, but that's also why it's like 20 times stronger than him.
And it's also like, this is so dumb. We've explained up and down why this is so dumb, but it looks so cool.
It's a bunch of tiny fish, which are cool, but
it's beautiful artwork and it's so stupid.
Yeah. Anyway, Char is happy when she hears that some guy with a fish katana's killing a bunch of people.
Here's something that doesn't get brought up much. Char sees a lot of dead people for a 5-year-old.
Oh my god, this is also where we get the flashback of what her mom went through, and I'm like, holy shit, this kid is too normal.
This kid is too normal for the insane amount of trauma.
I almost hate to say it, but it's also like really freaking generic too.
It's so generic. It's basically mom's backstory is we cut back to Char and mom's home life. She's basically living with a single mom in like a crappy apartment. And the whole deal is like, I'm happiest when I'm with you, mom. Yay. And she's just like, that's good, but we got to be careful. You got a boo-boo today? Oh, we can't show off that the fact we can heal people. That's very dangerous. Some people don't like that. Did you ever tell anyone, mama? Yeah, I told your father. I mean, somebody who ran away when I told him and never came back. And I'm like, well, okay, that's why she's a single parent.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wait, hold on. She's like, I don't want you to end up like me. It's like, but mom, aren't you happy? Are you saying that having a child by yourself was a mistake? Nope, I would never tell my child that. I'm like, oh, it's sad that Char's mom is one of like the best characters in this because I'm like, the fact that she genuinely has a worse off life because of like things that have gone wrong, and she has to be like, it's not your fault, and I don't regret having you, but I don't want you to emulate my life.
My life is materially worse because of the situation involving you. But out of
you
my
are
love
not
for you,
the fault. You are not
I'm
at
not
fault though.
And
you're the one thing that makes it okay. I mean, an example of really good art. Her smile says it all when she's saying that she's the happiest person on the planet. Again, there are flashes of genuine brilliance in this.
I would say the art is not the problem in this manga.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
Aside from the complaint I had about Char in the beginning.
And it's like, huh, geez, she told somebody about that and they ran away, huh? And you're saying that Char had been captured by these people before. I wonder what happened. And then it shows Sojo ringing the doorbell.
No fucking subtlety. Also, that means this guy sold them out like 5 years after. Because he left before she was born is what I assume happened. Because
Char doesn't even know anything about her father.
Yeah, and like, there's no way he stayed for the birth if the person can heal all like, there's just logistic problems with that.
Yeah. And it's like, because we can't have there be any subtlety, we then cut to another part of the flashback where it's Mom and Char in a cage, and Sojo is just there monologuing. You see, a decade ago, not long after the war, there are rumors of this clan in the mountains that could regenerate, and they all died.
Oh my god.
But then the other day, a guy showed up with information saying that a girl had escaped, grew up, and had a kid of her own. Golly gee, ain't that something?
Yeah, this reminds me of back in the hospital scene when the Keystone cops were there. There was a whole thing about Chihiro going on a monologue about some plot exposition. And then the monologue gets cut off by one of those like side characters just jumping in, going like, "Oh, geez, that was a long speech. Ain't I right, guys?" And I'm like, "Are you mocking the fact that this was poorly done? Like that
doesn't make it better.
It doesn't. It's not like they suddenly became self-aware because they keep doing it. So it's like,
so where do you want me to hang this lampshade, boss?
Anyway, we cut back to all those people dead.
Oh wait, we forgot to mention. We do see the flashback of Char's escape. Mom had like memorized the guard patterns so that they could break out into a supply room, but there's a vent that's only big enough for a child and not for Mom, even though Mom is definitely very skinny and could probably get in there.
Yeah, if Char's head fit. Also, I know this is morbid. Why don't they just cut off her head and then she can I don't know. That's probably asking too many questions.
We do know that that these people can actually die. So presumably
if the injuries are severe enough,
yeah.
So,
Mom stays behind, and then
Mom stays behind and then self-immolates to burn the place down to make a distraction so Char can escape. So presumably Char was crawling through that vent, listening to the fire and screaming and smelling the burning flesh.
Man, that's horrible. And then we find out immediately after the flashback. By the way, we immediately caught her soon after, and Mom's death was for nothing.
Yeah, because, that's her running to Devil May Cry for the friggin' plot to happen. I don't remember the actual name of the...
Yeah. I guess that's what it's implying, is that Mom died immediately, and that was when she ran to the place to tell them that she was being chased by a sorcerer with a really strong sword.
I think she escaped again independently of that, because the reason why she was getting taunted that your mother died for nothing was because they caught her again immediately. and then presumably she escaped again for the plot to happen.
But this is the point where I'm like, okay, the fact she escaped it all and made it to that weapon dealer is so insane. Like, it is such a small happenstance that this happened.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is what the entire plot hinges on.
Yeah, the weapon dealer who happened to be working with Chihiro on his vengeance quest, and she just so happened to also be trapped up in the vengeance quest.
And Chihiro happened to be able to get to Tokyo quick enough that she was not just immediately recovered because a person was after her like 2 hours later. Like,
Yeah.
she was not gone for long. They had such a small window for this meeting to happen.
So this inciting incident was about a week ago in story, because we established that everything that we had talked about before the break happened over the course of a single night, and then Chihiro was knocked out for 5 days. So it's been like 6 days since Mom burned herself to death escaping, and they were still able to rebuild all the equipment.
Yeah, no, that's what Jacob was saying, was that she probably got recaptured.
The escape that sets the plot in motion was a different escape than the one from the flashback.
Although, how did she escape? Because she doesn't seem
Yeah, that
competent
never
on her
comes
own.
up. Yeah.
So, it's also equally as likely that that was the escape, but then that makes everything happen in such a short time frame that it's just
it doesn't work. Yeah.
it's not great either way, is really.
There are plot holes in either option.
So anyway, we cut back to the Keystone Cops have now all been killed by Sojo. All but one. Or all but two.
Yeah, they get jobbed so freaking hard.
Because
Yeah.
they're like, we have 20 seconds. And he's just like, by the way, I evolved too. It only took 10 seconds to recharge the power. And I'm like, why would it evolve to have less recharge? You
Oh,
know,
no, it's
Yeah, that is
even, it's even dumber because they like use the big like one hit kill super move that they have been planning. They whack him, he drops Cloud Gouger and gets knocked off of the platform. So they didn't even like punch a hole in any vital organs or anything. They just tried to ring out him. And then he was still able, despite the fact that he didn't have the sword in his hand, he was able to still activate the lightning blast, draw himself from falling to zip up, torpedo through like 4 people, crash through the rock, and catch the sword.
I actually don't have a problem with him being able to activate the sword while not touching it.
Yeah, well, because that's what the evolution is supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, that's also just katana nonsense that I'm willing to
Yeah,
suspension of disbelief. It's
yeah.
the fact that he goes like, I evolved. That like
it has the same problem of this isn't really earned. And I mean, not for nothing, like the idea that he can like magnet himself to the sword being the evolution, it's not clear that's what's going on.
I would also be completely fine with the sword Cloud Gouger just allowing him to fly. Like, that's cool. Like, that's thematic. Like, I don't have a
that
problem
would be
with
thematic,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that could work. But like the way it's presented, it doesn't feel like that. So it doesn't feel like anything's really changed.
The thing is, he's a villain, so I care less if a power up is earned. So I feel worse about Chihiro.
It weakens the parallel is my sort of point of view on that.
Mhm.
But yes, it is less problematic when a villain gets a Diabolus Ex Machina than it happening for the hero.
But yeah, he horribly maims one of them and kills 4 others. There is also another one that is not here. But
Yeah, who got like both legs taken off or something.
oh no, there's still the 6th member that is, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Is the character introduced at the very end not the 6th member of the team?
He is, and he's the one that got his arm lopped off.
Oh, I'm talking about the woman at the end.
Oh,
I thought she was the 6th member of the team because they're very
Is
secretive
she?
about that.
Is she? I don't know.
They said the 6th member wasn't there, and that dude is with them in the hospital.
Oh yeah, and they said that she was being like held in reserve or something. We'll get to it.
She was doing lookout stuff to like check
Mhm.
out how they know all this stuff about the compound. But regardless, so Chihiro walks out of the compound just in time for Sojo to show up and be like, "Hey, I murdered all those other guys." And Chihiro's response to that is effectively, "Oh, I guess you learned how to power up your sword. I guess all that information I gave them really just got them killed." Whatever. He doesn't seem shook up about that at all,
Mhm.
which is
Oh,
interesting.
we forgot to mention Hey guys, you remember how Chihiro is supposed to be completely rinsed and super
Oh my
injured?
god, I forgot about this.
Well, clearly he now has to have the run back, the big final boss fight against Sojo. But he's so injured. How will he do it? And Char unlocks the ability to gift her healing power to others.
Yep.
Yep.
Because Mom once explained the healing power as when you're hurt, you
Your
want
body doesn't want to feel pain, so it
so so
tries to stop it.
you wish the injury away, and that makes it stop. And I get if you wish hard enough, you can heal any injury. And I think that was Mom saying, you can come back from being basically dead, but she reads it as I can heal other people. Hey Chihiro, your left arm that's been this whole time works again. Ain't that cool?
Mr. Shiba shows up going like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be fighting," and he's just like, "Watch me do watch me do a bunch of gang signs." I guess I'm just gonna let you fight Shoujo now. And then he takes Char and leaves.
Yeah, I know. He's like, all right, well, peace.
Well, I'm not gonna help you.
I guess I can only take one person with my teleport.
And we get like the cool like western, the two like white hat, black hat walking at each other. And the manga ends the chapter with the amazing line. They had decided because they both talked about like the fact they had gotten stronger and they both had things they had learned. And the manga goes, the battle would be over in an instant. 12 seconds on the clock. And dear viewer, you've done the reading. You know that was a lie.
Oh my god, this planet will explode in 5 minutes.
Well, even in the context of the narrative, what we're ignoring is the fact they walked up to each other, then went off to a separate room to have a full-ass conversation,
No,
and then come out to have a duel.
no, I think that conversation is like supposed to be
Oh my god, it's a
that's
metaphor.
it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
But
Yeah.
they're having such an in-depth conversation. Like,
That's the language of violence that they're speaking to each other with.
It's the battle inside the mind. They're clashing blades and engaging in this conversation.
I took it literally because they're literally both sitting across from a table enjoying Dongo together and
And
having
it looks like it's in the compound. Yeah.
and they're having like an in-depth conversation. So you couldn't like say this is them understanding each other through because they're talking about the moral philosophy of like Chihiro is acknowledging my dad is a human being who is separate from me. I am going to have disagreements with him. I am not the arbiter of what is the correct interpretation of his will. And in a manner of speaking, Sojo understanding that a man who is amazing at making weapons would want those weapons to be used. I am acknowledging his viewpoint has value to stand on its own. That doesn't mean I have to appreciate it, nor does that mean I have to allow it to exist. I am going to kill him because I disagree with him that strongly. That's not a conversation you have implied. Like,
I know, but I hate it because like there are so many problems with it. This was my favorite chapter.
they have a 12-second countdown and they keep cutting to them having this long exposition conversation about the nature of interpreting people's words, which should be super cool.
Yeah, and the thing that I love is like originally it's like, oh yeah, we're having Dongo. I don't like sweets. Whatever. So they're talking, and when Chihiro makes the acknowledgement that you said, Matt, about how like I can't be the arbiter of this, blah blah blah. He goes and he takes a bite of the Dongo.
He acknowledges he can be wrong. Like that.
He consumed and took in some of Shoujo's philosophy.
Because like he also has those flashbacks where he's just like, my dad had a different opinion. And his dad says, like, your mom was really smart. I don't expect you to be a clone of me. You should be like the good aspects of both me, your mother, and you also have your own things that are
That's unique to you specifically.
Yeah, and it's all being couched in this like 12-second countdown of them zipping all over the place because, he's using Chihiro's using his Kaioken. I guess Sojo can use the lightning mode as a Kaioken now too.
No, Sam, I agree with you. This moral philosophy nonsense is my jam, but I'm constantly torn out by the fact this is happening in between a 12-second countdown. That's a fight that I don't think is very interesting to watch, and it's just taking up space.
Some of the paneling is good. It waffles.
It's mostly the fact I was told the battle would be over in an instant, and that was a lie. That couldn't have been more of a lie.
Well, you see, they're going so fast.
Yeah, I guess.
This planet will explode in 5 minutes. Yeah. My favorite
No,
part
see,
is,
here's the thing. At least in the manga, the planet will explode in 5 minutes. That was like 3 or 4 chapters when that happened. It's the anime that screwed that up. This is the original source material screwing up time. You can't even defend this.
Though my favorite part is they're like in the middle of their fight. Chihiro, he's eating the dango. He's acknowledging that he has to grow as a person, which means he's now going to win the fight. And it cuts to the survivor of the strike force kneeling on the beach, heavily bleeding and maimed, saying, "These weapons should not exist." And it's like, okay.
Can I point out in that, like, I guess metaphor room they're talking about this? Sojo has a line that I don't understand to the point I'm wondering if it was translated correctly or if it's just nonsense when he speaks it originally. It answered my convictions and harmonized with them and gained slaughter. I don't know what that could possibly mean.
If
I understand what the words themselves individually mean, but as a sentence,
he's
what?
He's talking about Cloud Gouger, I think.
Yeah, he's talking about Cloud Gouger, and he's talking about, like, he's acknowledging the fact that he is Chihiro's father was a person and could very well believe a certain thing. But he's like,
I think it's a really clumsy and stupid way of saying the sword agrees with me.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, like, I can understand what you're saying. Your dad wouldn't agree with me, but I think you're misunderstanding. I think the way I'm coming at it, it is actually a valid philosophy and also gains me the ability to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
Which your dad would have disagreed with, but I don't. And I don't think that's incomprehensible with my morality.
Yeah. And the sword responded, and the sword now has my same bloodlust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's stupidly phrased.
It is very stupidly worded.
It's a very stupid line.
Yes.
There's a non-zero chance that in Japanese it's more eloquent, but that's just a matter of it. The localization could have afforded another pass. Perhaps the physical copy has a better translation of that line.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to be fair, weekly translations to, like, simulcast are not, yeah.
Especially if it's a really complex metaphor, legitimately interesting philosophical debate. Like, because, like, the actual...
We're definitely not on the side of saying translators and letterers are worthless and shouldn't be doing that. We've had people on the podcast.
We've had people on the pod talking about how hard it can be. And I mean, like, sort of the thing for me is, because I mean, I read this on the Shonen Jump app, and that's the first pass. I imagine that perhaps the physical copy, which is the more refined version that comes out later, might have a better translation.
See what the anime says.
Yeah, but anyway,
I feel like there's a more eloquent way of saying it.
Turns out instead of slaughter, it was supposed to be laughter. Weird.
and it all makes sense now. Anyway,
another one, it's like Chihiro saying, "I will use an even thicker bloodlust to cut you down."
We also cut over the part
that's
Chihiro
just the edgy nonsense leaking back in.
We also get the point where Chihiro gets an arm cut off.
Yeah,
that happens. Because I was defending. You'll note I said some of the paneling looked really good, not all of it.
Yeah, it took me a few passes to understand why arm there.
It got cut off, and
yeah,
I had lost any sense of, like, stakes because they had just established Char can heal shit, and I'm like, okay, nothing that happens matters anymore.
Yeah, his arm's going right back on,
and we get the final blow where he's just like, I don't have to respect your morality, and I'll just claim what is right through violence, which is the nature of weapons. And I'm like, cool, that makes sense. It's kind of a dark philosophy, but that's definitely the edgelord is going for. And in the final attack that like cut him in half, kind of, he gets really up.
Yeah,
Shoujo gets beat up, I should say.
Yeah, because Chihiro like zips behind him, and it's like, haha, you're still using your Kaioken, which means that you will fall right into my blade. At which point he turns off the Kaioken and uses the distance slash move.
Mm-hmm.
It's like inertia, I guess. But he like splits apart a bunch of trees because, of course, this has become a wuxia.
Mm-hmm.
He has carved out a huge amount of Sojo's guts, and he has split Cloud Gouger.
Yep, the sword is in two pieces. It is, I hesitate to say destroyed, considering how it's talked about, but
How it's talked about later, yeah. And then, because this isn't Kill Bill enough,
they ignore the corpse because Mr. No, Char comes back with Mr. Shiba, goes, I can't heal your arm. Well, whatever. I'm glad you're safe.
you did just learn to project your healing power onto others. I guess I can't expect you to have like a 7th level restoration spell off the bat.
She does say something along the lines of she doesn't feel the power anymore, so I have some ideas we can talk about in the like discussion section about that.
Yeah.
But the main thing is Mr. Shiba goes like, oh yeah, he's got his entrails falling out of him. He's probably gonna die in a few seconds anyway. We'll just not acknowledge him. And Shoujo takes that opportunity to climb up the stairs into the castle.
The 10,000 stairs.
And climb through the castle to the secret laboratory where he had the piece of metal that has souls in it or whatever. And he's just like, I understand it fully. Cloud Gouger has accepted me as one. I can control its power. And he touches the mass of metal, and the metal
Well,
just.
he also smashes through the presumably very thick glass to get to it.
I don't care. I'm just trying to make this make the most sense as possible. And then upon touching it, he has a realization that while Cloud Gouger accepted him, it did not accept him as fully and truly as the person who defeated it. So he was not ready. He was just being used. And then he explodes, taking the castle with him.
The whole castle.
It's
goes
literally fucking cool guys don't look at explosions as the three of them keep walking. They also didn't make it far as this dude who's got his guts falling out of him crawled through the castle.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So that happens. Then we basically get like a Bleach scene where all the captains are talking with each other. They're basically government agents who are above the special ops force interviewing the dude who said these weapons shouldn't exist. And they just lore dump. They lore dump so hard.
Did you know that these swords need to have death contracts tied to them so that only one person can use them?
Yeah, so it basically invalidates the fact that the other 5 swords all still have living owners. So they were never a threat. It's only Cloud Gouger that was a threat. I'm like, cool. And those people are in protective custody so that even though the swords are being sold at auction, they can't actually be used. So they're mostly just like illegal collector's pieces. I'm like, you should still try and reclaim them. Like,
there are so many reasons why they still qualify as a threat.
yeah, especially because those. I guess it's implied they weren't watching those sword wielders when two of them were assassinated, I think. Or only Cloud Gougers was assassinated, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a little unclear if Dad was the wielder of Cloud Gouger.
He wasn't. There was another guy who was.
Okay.
It was people outside of that compound that were murdered. It implied there were multiple murders, but then they say the other 5 have owners, so I don't know.
Whatever.
It invalidates a lot of the stakes for the
for the auction.
Yeah, but whatever. I guess this manga doesn't care about invalidating things it builds up because the lore drops here just make the government seem so omnipowerful, but also so impotent. Like, I don't.
They need to be powerful enough to rescue the protagonists or move the plot forward when necessary, but they can't be strong enough to deal with the plot themselves.
And then all the top government officials go, hey, by the way, we know his son's a person, so the fact that you were keeping it a secret isn't real, but we're not going to acknowledge it because apparently these people are still serving a higher government entity, even though they're the heads of the government. Cool. Like, I don't.
Sure.
And then we get reduced. And then we get introduced to the sixth member of the team, or maybe not, as I'm rereading the page. It's their strongest fighter, Hiyuki, who has a line that may be my favorite line in this entire manga, which is, "You've been granted the permission to use flame bone up to the torso." And I'm like, don't threaten me
Oh
with a good
my.
time.
Oh my.
Flame bone up to the torso is a choice.
I know it's supposed to be releasing restraint level 1, but it just sounds like that.
He's gonna take the bone up to the torso. It's gonna go all the way up. There's gonna be an indent
all
from
the
those
way
guts.
through.
Those guts are getting rearranged.
But his mission is to find Chihiro and retrieve Cloud Gouger and the Seventh Blade. So our renegade revenger is now on the outs with the government as if he wasn't already.
He's enough on the outs with the government so that they can be a threat without it derailing the plot. Because again, the hand of the author is very overt in this story.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because the government is built the way it is.
I think this is the scene we get revealed that the katana being auctioned is the most dangerous one, or it's the one that's bound separately. That wasn't revealed earlier, but
it was implied.
And none of the other katanas are threats, I guess, so it doesn't matter. Like, whatever.
Anyway, thus brings us to the end of our reading. So favorite character and favorite fight. Kind of hard to say. I mean, my favorite fight is the 12-second fight with the mind palace battle. I understand your complaints, Matt, and I acknowledge them, but God, I fucking love that.
I acknowledge your philosophy, but I don't have to agree with it.
Until this conversation, I had thought that conversation was diegetic, so...
So that's favorite fight. Easy answer. Favorite character is a bit of a harder one because...
They're all the same person.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. You know what? I liked Dad Rukahira. He seemed like a very interesting guy. He's my favorite kind of character where he's like the happy-go-lucky dude who is like perfect,
lovable goof with wisdom.
Lovable goof with wisdom, and then obviously all of that lovable goofness is hiding a lot of trauma.
Kunishigo Rokuhira definitely looks like the kind of guy who would pull his pants up to make the outline of his dick look like a katana.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But clearly he's got a lot of baggage, a lot of trauma. So he was emblematic of the part of this that was the best. So he's my favorite. How about you, Matt? Favorite character, favorite fight?
Favorite character, I got to go with Mr. Shiba because his comedy I thought landed every time he was in, and I'm like, okay, cool. He's the like cheery sidekick to Chihiro, and then they just remove him, and and then they introduce 5 other comic relief characters while he's in the room, and and they're not as funny, so I don't know why, but I liked Mr. Shiba when he's there. He's got a fun bit. He definitely lightens up the fact that Chihiro is just an unfun edgelord. Favorite fight? I think I'm gonna go with Chihiro versus the Daruma guy because that's got a whole bunch of fun action set pieces. I complained about the fact it was a what are the main characters' powers battle, but like it looked good and it was easy to follow. So I'll say that was my favorite.
All right, that's a good choice. And how about you, Jake?
I really like Char. Sort of similar to Mr. Shira, where we didn't really mention it very much during the actual plot synopsis, but she had a lot of charm to her. Like obviously there's like the elements of how is she this well adjusted if she's been through all this horrifying trauma, but like the scenes that she was in, I enjoyed. She expressed quirky in a fun way that I liked, and God, if I could bring myself to put any amount of faith in this story, then I might think that the more dramatic scenes with her were well done, because boy, can they do a crying child's face well. Again, the art is not a problem in this. It was fun watching her be a quirky goof. A lot of the more enjoyable characters have that quirky goof aspect of it, because like you can even argue Sojo is like a evil villain version of that to some degree. As for favorite fight, I think the best choreographed one, in my opinion, was the first Chihiro versus Sojo fight in the street. I really liked the back and forth of them testing each other, and even though it very quickly devolved into some "you're not ready yet" protagonist energy, which it was a choice. The actual fight part of that, basically before the lightning rod bit, was the most enjoyable sword fighting that we had seen.
All right. Predictions for the plot. I
I think
mean,
Matt, you said you had
yeah.
Oh,
an
yeah.
idea.
So I think the whole thing with Char was, this might be giving the series too much credit, and I'm fully acknowledging that. I think the whole deal with the reason she was able to heal Chihiro was because she'd been microdosed with that rock. That's why her power was
Mhm.
able to be like projected onto others. And she used all of that juice up healing him. And then when she tried to do it again, she didn't have any in the tank because she hadn't eaten any rock lately.
Yeah, and there was like a kind of throwaway thing where normally getting teleported by Shiba makes you queasy, but she wasn't like sick at all. So he's like, damn, she's got a lot of control over her spiritual power. She could make a great sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can see that.
Because you would have to put some cost on it. Otherwise, this katana manga is just going to have everyone healed up constantly. Like, because her healing
Yeah.
factor on herself is ridiculous.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Like the reason it can get away with her having that powerful a healing factor is because she is a little girl that can't fight.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
If she can give that to people who can fight, then it's unlimited sensu beans in the Goku Black arc.
I mean, a much more reasonable comparison is it's Deku and that little girl who can heal him.
Oh yeah, and the nurse who kisses it to make it better.
Nah.
But I was gonna say, oh, we haven't read it far, but it's that little girl with the horns and the healing power that he basically just uses as an all for one backpack.
Oh, what's her name? Ari?
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten that far in our reading.
We
If
haven't gotten that
we
far in the
haven't.
manga yet.
if we ever go back to My Hero Academia, God, if we need things I'm salty about.
So next week,
No,
But yeah,
we're not doing it next week.
plot predictions. You know what? I'm gonna take a wild stab in the dark. I think they're going to not acknowledge 5 of the katana exist. I
Yeah. See, they're setting up the other wielders of the other katana to like appear as a series of bosses. But then like why do we have this entire thing of them being lost? I don't know.
And like there's a whole thing about like he still doesn't know anything about the crime syndicate that killed his dad, because Sojo is just a dude they gave a katana for some reason. Like that I don't also
Is
understand
it
why they
he's this big powerful he was supposed to be this like big powerful dark manipulator weapons dealer, tons of connections in the underworld, so they gave
I
him a
think
super
the
weapon.
idea, yeah, I think the idea is that he's an enforcer for them. I
Mhm.
think that's the idea, but it never really got acknowledged because it got,
no one asked him for that information either. They're like,
yeah, nobody asked him for that information of how he actually got the damn thing.
and then Mr. Shiba is kind of just like, we've got someone else we can torture. We don't need his dying corpse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I don't think the other 5 katanas are gonna matter. I think it's gonna be the one they mentioned is gonna matter, and maybe they'll have like a big heist where the other ones are stolen. But like I
I th-
don't I
I
don't
think
know
that
what the plot could be.
I think that's the case as well because well, right now it's hopped between a bunch of different like subgenres of the cheesy 80s action movie, you know, the stuff that Canon made, where it's all the same, you know, I need to get revenge because a bad thing happened. It's just that repeat ad infinitum. And much like a canon action flick, it's just gonna kind of keep going on its own momentum until that momentum runs out, or they have a big final explosive fight, or both, where the final fight ain't so explosive. And I can fully buy that the other 5 katana, 4 of the remaining 5 will be, like, forgotten about or only pulled out if it continues to get syndicated.
In all honesty, my immediate thought is Sorcerer Cabal has like teleporting powers and shit. They put the official wielders of those katanas in protective custody, and like all the talismans around the pillars that were on the example that they showed would be presumably magic warding things. I have a feeling there's going to be a thing of like the official wielders like getting assassinated and like having to protect them being, because this is a dark edgy shonen where the heroes don't always win. They'll use that as an excuse to kill off the original wielders so that the katanas can be unlocked, as it were, for villains to use, and then basically it's the Sojo fight all over again, but with different power sets.
Yeah. Oh, also, I'm gonna just call it now. They're gonna reforge. He's gonna have to reforge Cloud Gouger, and then it's going to be like a cursed blade that fights him because it's got Sojo's bloodlust, and he needs to like tame it or something.
I could see him purifying it and forging it, because the big thing is, and this gets completely lost the further in we go, but like
Well,
he wanted to be a blacksmith.
Yeah. Well, I mean
So
that's
maybe in him forging it actually ends up purifying
I
it.
think that's what it's going to end up being in the long run, but in the short term, it's going to be the cursed blade that he has to dual wield and fight the evil urges, because this isn't what his
Yeah.
father would want.
Yeah, it's the edginess, you're right.
We did kind of skim this over. Chihiro's fighting style is he has his katana and then he also has a short sword. Man, it sure is convenient that Cloud Gouger was cut in half in such a way that the part connection to the hilt is a short sword now.
It's small enough to be a wakizashi, yeah.
He's gonna reforge it into his wakizashi, and then he's gonna get lightning powers because he already looks enough like I can't remember Chinese electric Batman's actually darker than black.
Mhm.
Like knives with electric power. And like I could see him having to like fight the spirit of Cloud Gouger to like take it over, and it represents as a shoujo fight, and it's like a whole thing.
And then we could have more Mind Palace battles, because we love those.
They did say he wanted to be a blacksmith,
Mhm.
and he should actually forge katana if that's what he wants to,
Yeah.
Also, sure is convenient that the one metal that's used to make the enchanted katana was blown up by Sojo.
Well,
Well-
actually, now that you mention it, turning it into into the like offhand short sword, the fact that there's the whole thing of like electromagneting yourself to it, because he does throw the one he has now a lot.
I know, Jacob, but what you're describing is also the signature jutsu of Naruto's father, so it's not going to make this more original.
No, but I mean, it fits.
It does, but it would be, man, it would make this Bleach Naruto ripoff more of a Bleach Naruto ripoff.
Yeah, so I guess that's the prediction we're going with then, isn't it?
It's going to
I
get
think so.
more generic. Oh my god, yeah. So, man, I'm sure in a surprising turn of events, hey Sam, would you continue reading?
If you had asked me, like, as soon as I finished chapter 18 and I was, like, putting it down to get ready to record, I would have said yes. Because in the act of reading it, it's flowing great. I'm, maybe not great, but it's flowing well. I'm engaged. I'm having cheesy fun. It's a canon action movie. We have City of Jade at home. And I'm vibing with that. Once we started talking about it and actually thinking about it, all the holes became very apparent and just grew larger and more glaring. I'd give it another bash, but I don't know if it would be able to hook me. Just because now that we've thought about it so much, I'm not going to be able to just turn that off again readily.
Makes sense. Jacob, would you continue reading?
Might be a bit of surprise, but yeah, I would. I'm not gonna lie, I clued into the fact that it was kind of losing its intellect and subtlety pretty early on in the reading, and I kind of read the parts where it was starting to descend into feels harsh to call it mediocrity, but that's really what it is. When it was starting to get in that spot, I had already kind of taken to reading it like a bad cheesy 80s action movie. And insofar as that it's good, it's a breezy read, so it's the kind of thing that I might pick up if I don't have anything better, or it's like the things I'm reading I'm caught up on, so it's like, oh, let me just get something light.
Hmm.
I think a big advantage of it is that because it's so new, we're already pretty close to caught up to current, and that is I know for a fact that's influencing. I could read the other 8 or so chapters of this like
So the
in a
reason
sitting.
why this is okay and Jujutsu Kaisen sucks is because Jujutsu Kaisen has 200 more chapters.
Yeah, actually, there might
Fair.
be something to that.
I love it.
You know what? Fair enough.
Yeah, there are a lot of elements of these two that I really wish I could have been on that Jujutsu Kaisen episode, because I actually finally figured out why. And like, we're not talking about that now, so I'm not going to get into it. But there are a lot of similarities in the things I don't like about both of them. But I will say, Kagurabachi I enjoyed a little bit more. I don't
If
know,
you want
maybe it's the fighting. I think it's probably the sword play that's engaged me more than Jujutsu Kaisen's power set.
If
But
you want Jacob to fully explain his views on Jujutsu Kaisen, feel free to just comment in the YouTube comments for either this episode or the Jujutsu Kaisen episode. He'll respond to them there.
hey, wait a minute, don't commit me to that. I might do it.
Oh, and then finally me, ever the contrarian. I can't allow Jacob to like anything. No, I would not continue reading this garbage. Holy shit! Like,
Fair.
I liked the first chapter. The first chapter was amazing, and then every chapter after that just disappointed me in a new and different way.
New and more interesting ways.
I don't disagree with that assessment.
I don't feel like at the end of what we read there was anything encouraging me to continue reading. I don't think the next arc would be different in a way I liked. I don't feel like there's anything for me here. So, I can't even make the joke we'll do another episode on it because there's literally not enough chapters to do another episode on, but hey.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. And thank you, everybody, once again for tuning into the Over Manga Cast. As always, you can find us on all of your social medias, where we are at Over Manga Cast.
We're also on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. The episodes go up on YouTube on a 2-week delay, so if you want to catch up with our current stuff, you can head over to overmangacast.com, which even has a place where you can comment and recommend stuff. Recommend better stuff than this manga, or worse, and hear us be angry. That's also an option. Those make for good episodes.
And as always, we appreciate reviews in any and all forms. You can go ahead, leave a review. If you're listening to this at overmangacast.com, nice little comment box at the bottom, or you can reach out overmangacast@gmail.com. Send us a recommendation on what we read. We might read more of this. We could read, I don't know. What's something garbage? I thought of something that was just a hentai, so probably shouldn't say that one.
Well, if you want something that's garbage, I'm pretty sure we've got an isekai on the chopping block for next week.
Why do we keep doing that?
Because it's funny.
I hate all of you.
Make sure to tune in next Thursday, where we're going to be reading Remonster, chapters 1 through 19. Read that if you keep it up with the show, and we'll see you all then. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Why am I put on this earth only to suffer? Like, seriously, guys, stop doing isekais. They're never good. They're all the same stupid nonsense. I'm like, I got hit by a bus, and now I've got everything I could ever want, but I'm going to pretend I have hardships.
Hey, you listen. Truck-kun is always the best character in the isekai. Don't you insult Truck-kun.
Yeah, he does the one thing that no bad guy can do. Kill the pro tag.